Caves are wild. They're dark, mysterious, and full of secrets that have been hidden for thousands, sometimes millions of years. And for some people, that mystery is irresistible. Cave explorers, or cavers, crawl, climb, and dive into the earth, chasing adventure. But what most don't realize is how risky it really is. See, caves aren't like hiking trails or national parks. There are no guardrails, no safety nets. One wrong move underground, and you're in serious trouble. Some of the tight spaces are barely wide enough to breathe. A twist the wrong way, and you can get stuck. Water can rise fast. Oxygen can run out. And if help is needed, it's often too late by the time it arrives. This video takes you into the darkest corners of the earth, literally. We're talking about the most painful and tragic cave deaths ever recorded. These aren't just freak accidents. They're terrifying, real-life horror stories of people who got trapped, couldn't get out, and suffered slow, brutal deaths. From a man who got stuck upside down in a tiny tunnel, to a diver who drowned trying to bring a friend's body back. These stories are not for the faint of heart. They're intense, emotional, and unforgettable. If you've ever been curious about what it's like deep underground, or just how bad it can get when things go wrong, stick around. These stories will chill you, shock you, and maybe even make you think twice before entering a cave. Let's begin. The Nutty Putty Cave Tragedy, John Edward Jones. It was supposed to be a fun family adventure. On the evening of November 24th, 2009, 26-year-old John Edward Jones went exploring Nutty Putty Cave in Utah with his brother and a few friends. John had some caving experience, and Nutty Putty was popular with local explorers. But this cave wasn't just your average walkthrough. It was full of tight squeezes, narrow tunnels, and confusing paths. And one small mistake would lead to one of the most horrifying cave tragedies ever. John was searching for a passage called the Birth Canal, a notoriously tight spot. But he took a wrong turn and ended up in a different, even narrower tunnel, just 10 inches wide and 18 inches high. Trying to move forward, he got stuck. Really stuck. He couldn't go forward, and he couldn't back out. Even worse, he was trapped upside down, head below his feet, one of the worst positions a human body can be in for a long time. His brother tried to pull him out but couldn't budge him. Rescuers arrived soon after and worked non-stop, using ropes, pulleys, and even drills to widen the tunnel. But the deeper they dug, the more unstable the cave became. And John was stuck so tight, it was nearly impossible to move him. For 27 hours, he stayed trapped, upside down, in pain and unable to move. The pressure on his body caused his organs to shut down. He eventually died from cardiac arrest. His heart simply couldn't take it anymore. John never made it out. His body was so deeply stuck, rescuers couldn't recover him without risking more lives. In the end, the cave was permanently sealed, with John still inside. His story is now one of the most famous cave tragedies in modern history. It's a chilling reminder that in caves, even one wrong move can be deadly. Floyd Collins, trapped in Sand Cave. Before TV, before the internet, there was Floyd Collins. Back in 1925, Floyd Collins was already a well-known cave explorer in Kentucky. He had discovered Crystal Cave, and he was hunting for more passages, hoping to create a cave system that would draw tourists. On January 30th, he entered Sand Cave alone. He crawled deep into a narrow tunnel, looking for a new path. And that's when everything went wrong. While inching through a tight passageway, a large rock shifted and pinned his left leg. He was trapped, completely stuck in a cold, dark tunnel, more than 50 feet underground. He couldn't move, and no one else could squeeze in far enough to pull him out. It didn't take long before the rescue attempts began, and they turned into a full-blown media circus. Reporters from all over the country showed up. Thousands of people gathered around the cave. Radios gave updates by the hour. It was one of the first news events to capture the entire nation. But despite all the attention, the rescue team struggled. Every time they tried to dig or break rocks, the tunnel became more unstable. One collapse nearly buried Floyd completely. They passed him food and water through a small opening. But even that became impossible after a few days. Trapped in freezing temperatures, injured, and alone, Floyd held on for nearly 2 weeks. Rescuers later found that he had likely died around day 14, most likely from starvation, dehydration, and exposure. When they finally reached his body, it was too dangerous to remove him, and they sealed the cave around him. What makes this story so haunting isn't just the way he died, but how public it all was. Millions followed the updates. People listened by radio, praying he'd make it out. But in the end, Floyd Collins became a legend for all the wrong reasons. His story is still told today, an early reminder that caves are beautiful, but they don't forgive mistakes. Neil Moss, asphyxiation in Peak Cavern. In 1959, a 20-year-old student named Neil Moss decided to explore one of England's deepest and most mysterious caves, Peak Cavern, also known by its much creepier nickname, the Devil's Arse. Neil was with a group of fellow cavers when he attempted to descend into a narrow vertical shaft deep inside the cave, but the shaft turned out to be tighter and more dangerous than anyone expected. While lowering himself down, Neil got wedged in, a tight squeeze between jagged walls that left him trapped nearly 1,000 feet from the cave entrance. What made it even worse? He was stuck in a spot where the air didn't move. With no ventilation, the carbon dioxide from his own breathing started to build up. Rescuers rushed to the scene, but every time someone tried to go down to help, they started feeling dizzy and short of breath. The deeper they went, the more dangerous it got, not just for Neil, but for them too. His father stood outside the cave for days watching the rescue attempts. Divers, climbers, even miners came to help. But no matter what they tried, ropes, harnesses, digging, they couldn't reach him safely. The toxic air made it nearly impossible. After hours of failed attempts, Neil's breathing slowed, and eventually it stopped. He died alone, stuck in total darkness, slowly suffocating underground. At his father's request, they made a heartbreaking decision to leave his body in the cave. It was just too dangerous to retrieve him. The shaft was permanently sealed, and Neil's body remains there to this day. This tragedy hit hard across the UK. Neil was young, bright, and full of life, and in just one day, a cave claimed it all. His story serves as a painful reminder that not all dangers underground are visible. Sometimes it's the air itself that turns against you. The shaft incident, Mount Gambier, cave diving. Cave diving is already one of the most dangerous sports on Earth. But in 1973, a group of Australian divers learned just how deadly it could be. The place was the Shaft, a deep, hidden sinkhole near Mount Gambier in South Australia. From the surface, it doesn't look like much, just a small hole in the ground. But below that opening lies a massive flooded cave system with twisting tunnels, sharp turns, and almost zero visibility. On May 28th, a group of 10 young divers entered the water, eager to explore. They were excited, confident, and well-equipped, or so they thought. But deep inside the cave, everything went wrong fast. The problem started when they swam through a narrow passage, and their movements kicked up clouds of silt from the cave floor. The water turned pitch black. No lights, no visibility, just total darkness. 4 of the divers got separated from the group, confused and disoriented. In a cave like that, even a few seconds of panic can be fatal. One by one, they ran out of air, lost their way, and drowned. The survivors made it back to the surface, shaken and horrified. Rescue teams were called in, but the cave was so dangerous that it took almost a year to recover all the bodies. The tragedy rocked the diving community and made international headlines. After the accident, Australia completely changed its approach to cave diving. They introduced stricter rules, advanced training requirements, and tighter safety checks. The Shaft became a warning to the entire world. Just because you can dive doesn't mean you're ready for a cave. What makes this story especially terrifying is how quickly it all happened. One moment, it was just a fun dive. The next, it turned into a nightmare. 4 lives lost, swallowed by a silent underwater maze. Bushman's Hole, Dion Dreyer and David Shaw. Bushman's Hole in South Africa is one of the deepest underwater caves on the planet. It's over 890 feet deep, so deep it's pitch black, freezing cold, and filled with pressure that pushes even expert divers to the limit. In 1994, 20-year-old Dion Dreyer was diving in Bushman's Hole when something went wrong. Reports say he lost consciousness, possibly due to equipment failure, or the brutal conditions at that depth. His body sank into the darkness, far beyond what most divers could ever reach. For years, no one dared to go after him. It was just too dangerous. Then in 2005, an experienced Australian diver named David Shaw decided he would try. Shaw was one of the few people in the world who could dive that deep, and on his first dive into Bushman's hole, he actually found Dion's body, still wearing his wetsuit and gear, completely preserved in the cold, still water. 10 days later, Shaw came back with cameras and equipment to recover Dion and bring him home. But this mission would go terribly wrong. The moment Shaw tried to secure Dion's body in a bag, things started falling apart. The body had become heavier and more fragile than expected. As he struggled, Shaw got tangled in his own gear. His camera recorded everything. His breathing grew faster. Panic set in. And then, silence. David Shaw died right next to Dion Dreyer in the very same cave while trying to bring him back. It wasn't until a few days later that other divers recovered both bodies. The footage from Shaw's final dive was eventually found, and though it's never been released to the public in full, it's been described as one of the most intense and emotional videos in diving history. This story is more than just a tragedy. It's a haunting example of how powerful and unpredictable nature can be. Even the best divers in the world aren't invincible. Bushman's hole took 2 lives, a decade apart, in the same dark place, one trying to escape and one trying to help. Pluragrotta cave disaster, Rana, Norway. In the frozen mountains of Norway, there's a cave system called Pluragrotta. It's cold, remote, and beautiful, but it's also known as one of the most dangerous underwater caves in Europe. In February 2014, it became the site of a deadly dive that shook the cave diving world. A group of 5 experienced Finnish divers set out to explore the cave. They had planned everything down to the second: gear checks, safety lines, emergency tanks, the works. But Pluragrotta doesn't play by the rules. Deep inside the cave, something went wrong. 2 of the divers, Tomi Kallioiniemi and Patrick Grenqvist, became separated from the group. Visibility dropped, confusion set in, and both men failed to make it back. The 3 surviving divers made it out, but their friends were lost somewhere in the freezing depths. Norwegian authorities quickly launched a rescue mission, but the cave's layout and freezing water made it too dangerous. They officially called off the recovery effort. The message was clear: the bodies would have to stay there. But the survivors didn't accept that. Months later, without government permission, the 3 men who had survived returned to Pluragrotta. They planned their own recovery mission, risking their lives again to bring their friends home. Against all odds, they succeeded. They navigated the same tight tunnels, faced the same freezing waters, and brought back both bodies. Their story was so powerful that it became the focus of a documentary called Diving into the Unknown. It's a raw, emotional look at friendship, fear, and the kind of loyalty that pushes people to do the unthinkable. What makes this story different is the human side of it. It's not just about the danger, it's about what people will do for each other in the face of it. Pluragrotta didn't just test their diving skills, it tested their hearts. Caves are like Earth's secret rooms, hidden, wild, and untouched. But every secret comes with a price. For the people in these stories, the price was everything. They entered the darkness with courage, with hope, and with curiosity. But nature doesn't always let you come back. These tragedies aren't just about bad luck or accidents. They're about how fragile the human body is, and how far we'll go to explore the unknown. Some got stuck, some ran out of air, some were just trying to help, but all of them pushed the limits, and those limits pushed back. And the truth? These are just some of the stories. There are still bodies in sealed caves, still names carved into rock walls, still mysteries buried in places no light has touched for thousands of years. So the next time you feel curious about what lies underground, remember these stories. The cave never forgets. What do you think? Let us know in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe.